Hello yogis, my name is April and welcome to the Yoga Ranger Studio. Welcome to our practice today. Today we're going to be working with poses to really help open up the side of the inner leg and groin space. A space that for a lot of people is really tight and tense and can actually result in a lot of injuries for the inner leg and inner thigh. So this is a practice to help open up that space quickly and efficiently. You can use this before, after any sports or events or activities, or before, after your yang style yoga practice, morning, afternoon, or night, whenever you need it, short and quick and to the point. So just for this practice, if your knees are a little bit tender, I would really recommend having a towel or something underneath to give you a little bit of cushioning, but otherwise you don't have to have an extra blanket underneath. You can just be on your mat or on your carpeted floor, works just as well. So we're going to start in resting dragonfly. So tucking that left leg underneath, so you can have the heel out to the outside of the hip, or you can have it to the inside. If this is too much of a bend for your knee, you can always bring the foot to the inner thigh. We're going to take that right leg out to the right, heel down, toes up. So we have sort of a 90-degree angle here in the inner thigh. And then starting to just fold forward. So the foot comes down to the floor, the toes touch down. It may be that the whole outside of the foot doesn't touch, and that's okay. As you find you settle into the pose, it may be that your foot starts to tilt and the foot starting to flatten on the bottom. That's going to give you a little bit more opening in the inner leg. Finding a space you can stay for just a little while. This is my favorite pose for opening the inner leg, inner thigh, and groin space. That inner hamstring as well. So you're running the outside of the hamstring, that inner space inside, really opening up the space. Notice as you hold the pose longer, maybe the muscles fire here, and just taking some breaths to release muscle engagement and allow us to go deeper into the connective tissue. Slowly pressing into your palms, lifting back up, tilting those toes back up toward the ceiling, and then pulling that leg back in super slow. Here, just sitting back for a couple of breaths. If this is a lot, you can take a child's pose or just sit in a cross-legged position. Noticing all the things going on in there, all the sensations that come up after the pose is over. Noticing the differences now we've done one side and not the other. And gently shifting over to our other side, tucking that right leg, the heel on the outside or inside, stretching the left leg out, heel up, heel down, toes up. That would be fun to get heel up, right? Coming to that 90-degree angle here again, and then starting to fold forward, just letting your foot drop down. Notice as time goes by, maybe your foot starts to flatten a little bit more toward the floor, or you can just very gently start to tilt it down so the bottom of your foot starts to tilt a little bit more toward the floor. Just about one more minute here. Gently placing your hands on the floor, starting to press all the way back up, tilting your foot back up. Taking your hand and slowly bringing that leg back in here, coming into whatever seat fits best for you, or even child's pose if that feels appropriate. Noticing how things feel now that you've done both sides. And for our next two poses, turning the blanket the opposite way. So if you're using a blanket, turning it so that it's wide, so you have lots of space to go here. We're going to come into tadpole pose. So think of a super wide child's pose. So bringing the big toes together, sliding the knees as wide as you feel you can go, maybe coming back in a little bit, and then coming all the way down, maybe onto forearms, or hands out in front of you, forehead to the floor, or to your hands. Starting to lift up a little bit. We're going to come into frog pose. So taking the toes and turning them out. Ankles sort of in line with the knees as much as possible. Maybe you take the legs a little bit wider. Come up on forearms. Maybe you rock forward a little bit more and come all the way down. Find that place where you can stay just for a couple of minutes. Noticing your breath if you're holding it. Coming back to your 3-part breath, belly, chest, collarbones. Last deep inhale and exhale, taking a nice big deep breath. Exhaling through your mouth. Slowly tucking the ankles back in, pressing into your forearms, sliding one knee and then the other back to center. And here, bringing the knees together, shifting back into child's pose with the knees closer together just for a few breaths. Checking in with any sensations, any changes in how your body feels. And coming back up to center. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice. I hope this gave you a little bit more room in the inner leg and groin space. These are a bit more challenging poses, but they work really effectively, especially if you're using them as just short things at the beginning or end of a yang practice, or you know you have some tension here and you want to loosen that up, using these as little things to use during the week, night, day, once a day, a couple of times a week, just to supplement and make sure this space stays open, especially if you do have an issue here. So I hope you enjoyed this practice. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful week.